What do you got for me?
What's wrong with you people?
I got nothing for you.
What's wrong?
You're not David. How y'all feel this morning? I feel rotten. That's how I feel. Well, that was enough for me. We could have had the benediction right there. That was so good.
What's going on, everyone, and welcome to the Reformatory, the podcast for the local church and by the local church, and we are your local churchmen. My name is Josh, and I am joined, as always, with the captain, Jack Barry, looking like Dapper Dan over here, man. You showed up again. I mean, we ran into this situation a couple weeks ago as well, where I'm thinking you're showing up, looking all good for me, but not the case. Not the case.
No. I had an interview before we talked. So sorry, Josh.
That's okay. That's all right. A guy can dream. Dream.
Yep.
Yeah, but that's all right. No, definitely appreciate it. Looking good as always, Jack, my man. It's good to be here. Good to be recording. We've got some fun stuff to talk about today. But real quick, my friend, how was your Lord's Day? Give us the
pretty
30-second version here.
We wrapped up a series in 2 Corinthians on generosity. Mm-hmm. So we did about a 3-week series on generosity, kind of talking about that. We'll go back to the Gospel of John again here probably, I'm assuming, next Sunday.
Okay.
So we did that. I've been mostly taking care of like Theo. My wife's she had a double ear infection. I don't know how she got that. I don't know why, but had to take my son and do stuff with him, but it's fine.
Yeah.
She's getting better. So
good. Glad
antibiotics are definitely helping out, but yeah,
that's awesome.
If it's not one thing, it's the other. So
that's how it goes, man. Yeah. That's true. Yeah. I was preaching down in Seattle, Redeemer Bible Church. Pastor Tyler Whitman doing some good work down there.
Yeah.
In the heart of Seattle. So that was good. Always cool getting down there and doing stuff for them. So that's a fun time. But Jack, my friend, we've got some stuff to do. We've got some things to talk about. But before we do, it's time for everyone's favorite segment. Don't forget to eat your Instagrams.
And now's the time you've all been waiting for. The Reformatory Podcast presents Don't Forget to Eat Your Instantgrams with your hosts, Josh Loftus and Jack Barry. And remember, kids, it's not heresy if you believe it hard enough.
This is Don't Forget to Eat Your Instagrams. And remember, kids, it's not heresy if you believe it hard enough. Jack, my friend.
Gosh.
Good stuff as always. I've got this one's for the heavy metal kids, the heavy metal folks out there that like getting in the old mosh pit. I never thought, though, Jack, that there would come a day where I saw a mosh pit happening in a local church.
Oh no. No.
Okay. So
100% charismatic.
Yeah. For those audio listeners only, what we have here is some sort of worship service going on. The band is up there doing their thing. There's lots of lights. There's a stage, and you have individuals in the front, kind of in the pit is what we would call it in a concert venue, doing their crowd kills. They're doing their spinning kicks, their flying fists, their flips, and we're moshing for Jesus, Jack, which I didn't think would ever be a sentence that I would say, but that's exactly what's happening here. If it couldn't get worse,
Yeah.
all right, This man is known for his legendary bad takes. Okay, so there's nothing new in this next video.
Oh no!
But I like it's to the point now where I don't even know what he's trying to say, and I'm usually good at usually kind of deciphering, trying to decipher the meaning behind things, even when the meaning is heretical. This goes beyond my ability to do that. I will give someone like mega props if you can decipher for me what this Yahoo is saying. I'm introducing you, Jack, not for the first time, unfortunately, to Kenneth Copeland.
My spiritual father said, you've got to get it in your knower. And you just know that you know that you know that you know you know that you know that you know that you know you know that you know you know that you know you're healed. And he said, when it gets to the place where you know, he said, that's when it'll take place. And you have to stay in the Word until the knowing comes. You start out on hope, and then you get the Scripture and you stand on it and release your faith. And you continue to thank God and confess that thing. By His stripes, I'm healed. By His stripes, I was healed. If I was healed, I'm healed now. Thank God. I praise you for it in Jesus' name. My spiritual father said,
I think he might have had okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's right about here.
You got to get it in your knower, and you just know that you know that you know that you know you know that you know that you know that.
At this point, I'm in the audience thinking he's having a stroke. I'm thinking he's dying. I'm thinking something has happened. He's about to fall over because.
Yeah. Oh my gosh!
And then
there's too many
word
no's.
salad.
Yeah,
that was the most incredible word salad I've ever heard in my life.
What I took out of that was basically I can manifest healing in myself. That's what I took away from.
Well,
that
you have to
salad.
release your faith, Jack. Which that sentence.
What does that even mean?
Never mind. You just got to release
it.
You got to have a release of faith, Jack. Is what you've got to do.
So dumb.
There's a lot of places.
It could have been worse.
That could go.
Hey, the Instagrams.
It could be worse. Yeah.
The Instagrams could have been worse. I sent a video to Josh where it was like a video of a guy reacting to furries who are worshiping Jesus, and I'm like, I don't know if we're ready for that on the Instagrams yet. I don't think we're ready for that.
Those guys are all about releasing the faith.
Gosh. Kid show. It's a kid show. It's a kid show.
I'm sorry. Oh man. Yeah, this is bad stuff. Bad stuff. Always count on old Kenny. Old Kenny C to provide some legendary material to react.
Legendary garbage.
You know. Well, Jack, if there's something that I do know, I know, it's that we in the Reformed world, especially those of us that fall into the camp of Reformed Baptists. I know some of the Presbyterians might be a little triggered right now, but we are Reformed. Particular, even. All right. Something that I know is that we have a tendency within our theological camp to not be known as, let's just say, the most lively bunch.
Yeah.
The most jovial bunch.
Yeah.
We very much enjoy the joy being down in our heart and staying there. Right? That I've got the joy down in my heart, way down, and we're just going to leave it exactly where it's at. And far be it from us to allow that joy to find its way to the surface from time to time, right? And obviously, I am being facetious in my language, but I'm doing so to try to make light of I would say, in my estimation, a problem. Because look, we all have problems, right? We all have things like every theological camp, denomination has its blind spots, things that it struggles with. That's just how it works, right? Some definitely are greater than others, and I think that there's a lot of reasons for this particular blind spot of ours, but we are affectionately known, affectionately or not, oftentimes as the frozen chosen, because we know we're saved and we have our theology worked out and very precise, very particular, right? But often we can be known and characterized as kind of being a cold bunch. And the theology that we say we believe in, the grace that we say we love, and the joy of our salvation that we claim to have, can often only have its application in the theology that we will preach or teach, and not in the other ways that I think joy is meant to be seen in our voices, on our faces, expressed through different means that the Lord has given us to express and show emotion, right?
Yeah.
So I'll say this, and then I'll throw it over to you. Like I said, I think there's a lot of reasons for this. I think the main one, or one of the main ones, because I'm sure there's a couple, especially within the last, let's say, 15 years. Let's say 15 to 20 years, right? There has been quite the rise in America with sensational theology, charismatic theology, right? We've had the kind of the rise of Bethel and Hillsong and these entities that we know of that put so much emphasis on the emotion, on the outward, on the experience. And from what we have seen and what has been proven time and time again, the theology that they have is a mile wide and half an inch deep. So you have an entire structure, an entire belief system, honestly, that is rooted in emotionalism and not in the truths of Scripture. And we see the consequences of that. Because of that, and because of our very right and correct desire to not be that, right? To be clear, we reject that as theologically false. I would say the vast majority of it is not even biblical. It's not even orthodox. I think Bethel is a cult at this point with the things that they claim and the things that they believe in. They do not believe in a biblical Jesus. And if you don't believe in a biblical Jesus, you can't have a biblical gospel. But I think with our desires to not be associated with that type of emotionalism, with that type of charismania, and that understanding and working out of quote unquote Christianity, we struggle with going too far to the other side, with pendulum swinging to the other side, to where now we have churches and individuals that are very theologically literate. They know their theology, and that's important. We have to. Absolutely. But it can often result in emotions that are, I would say, not in line with the theology that you say you believe. And we see that in the ways that some of us worship. We see that in the ways that some of us interact with our brothers and sisters. We see that in ways of how, things that we are, things that we're okay with doing on the Lord's Day, things we're not okay with doing on the Lord's Day in terms of, styles of music or instruments that we use or the types of songs that we sing. And I think that there is a real issue that is I'm seeing being kind of risen within the real particular Baptists and the Reformed camps that we're not often known for our joy. We're very stoic people. We're very Puritan in a lot of the ways that we interact. But the Puritans were known to have joy. That's the thing. It's like the Puritans were very joyous people.
Yeah.
Right. Yes, they had some, weird ideas in some things, but they weren't known for being grumpy. And what I have found is there's just a reputation, especially for us particular Baptists, because that's who I'll focus on, because that's the camp that I'm in. Like having that RBF, that resting Baptist face, that's very well known, and I don't like that. I don't like that. I try to not be that, and I definitely don't see that as being a good thing in the camp that we live in. Your thoughts, Jack?
Yeah, I don't know. It just reminds me of the text too that we went over in 2 Corinthians, where Paul's talking about generosity comes from joy, trust, thanksgiving. You really have to cultivate that in your life, and something that we went through something that I went through Pastors and Leaders Institute through my local church was just, how do you come off to people? That's a huge thing, how people take you in, because as a pastor, there's ways in which you can be interpreted. There's ways in which you can be perceived. And is the perception of you from a place of honesty, a place of, hey, I'm going through this. There's times where you're not going to be completely joyous and jolly and stuff like that. And I can understand those things. But I think on the other hand too, like, you do need to be approachable. That would just be helpful if people knew that you're approachable, and that, oh, hey, I can talk to them, I can interact with them, I can have a conversation. Like, being grumpy and being not approachable does not help unity within the church necessarily, or just having that constant, you always look mad, you always look ticked off. I've been told that I have a poker face a lot of the times, and
sure.
People don't know how to adjust when they're talking to me sometimes. So there's just some things that you might have to, those might be hard words for some people, but you might also just have to work on that too. But yet again, I don't take myself very seriously either. So I can see where we get that attitude from, or that perception of us in our camp from. But it's also a way for you to change the conversation, in which if you start to cultivate joy and trusting in the Lord more, and thankfulness and thanksgiving more, people are going to see that more often in your life.
Yeah, absolutely.
And reflect it in your life. And so I think a lot of it is just when you're cultivating that, when you're praying for the Lord to work on you in those ways.
Yeah.
But that, it's tough too, because we rely very much on liberty of conscience in the particular Baptist realm.
Right.
So to tell somebody, oh, hey, this is how I perceive you, they'll be like, oh, well, whatever, I'm not changing for you. They might use that in that way. So, but I get that we do need to be more joyous people. We do need to be less grumpy and maybe more thankful. We do need to cultivate more unity in some ways, but it's it takes time. And I think we've joked about RBF a lot, but also too, it's like, there does need to be a balance.
Right.
Like, your gospel doctrine should be outlived in the way that you live your life.
Yeah.
And that should lead to joy. Like I said, that should lead to a different change in your personality and your demeanor and how you're perceived.
Yeah.
And if something's going on, being open to talking about that and just having conversations. So, yeah. that's kind of, if your gospel doctrine is not lining up with the way that you're contributing to your gospel culture in your church, like what's going on there?
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Sorry,
exactly. I mean,
sorry to sound like Tucker Carlson. What's going on here? What are we doing?
that's right. Yeah. As long as you don't have, as long as
Oh my
you
gosh.
don't have like a pouch on your belt that's part
Oh
of your
my
tactical
gosh.
gear for your
No.
sins, you're going to be okay.
No, please no.
But I mean, no, that's very true. I mean, that's the Gospel of John 15:13, right? This is Jesus speaking. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. These things I have spoken to you, that my joy may be in you, and that your joy may be full. Right? And like a heart that is filled with joy because it is abiding in the commandments of Christ will have physical manifestations. I think it should. I don't think our joy is meant simply to stay inside. I think it's meant to be shown, because God has given us emotions. He's given us a face that makes facial expressions. He's given us tones of voice. He's given us ways that we communicate as humans to each other, whether we're happy, whether we're sad, whether we're distressed or anxious or mad or joyful. He's given us the full range of spectrum that is part of being made in his image. And I think we should use that, right? What is it? Proverbs, where is it? It's Proverbs. I just had it up. Sorry. Yeah. Proverbs 15:13. A glad heart makes a cheerful face, but by sorrow of heart, the spirit is crushed. Right? Like, who else can say that they have the right to have a glad heart than those, other than those that have been given the full joy of living in Jesus Christ? That's us. That's Christians, right?
Yeah.
Especially Christians that I would say know their doctrine, that know the reason for the joy that they have. It's not just some sort of like, like anthropomorphic, ethos understanding of, well, I'm
Fake
happy.
it till you make it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not some sort of emotionalism. It's rooted in truth. It's grounded in deep theological truth that Jesus is who he said he is. And he did what he said he was going to do. And we believe that, right? So I think we allow sometimes our backgrounds to dictate how we will go about living this out. Right. I know that's true for me. Like I was not raised, like I was raised in a very, I was raised in an environment to where, at least the church that I grew up in, like, completely bought into the strange fire, like that could like we're going to reject those. And look, I mean, in a lot of ways, rightly so. Like that
Sure.
like that whole thing was rejecting something that needs to be rejected. Like that's why it was there, right? But there was so much of an emphasis placed on that displaying emotion. Let's just say, for example, within the worship service, often any other displays of emotion that weren't maybe closing your eyes, at least for me, was kind of made fun of, right? And I'm not speaking for everybody, obviously, at that church. I'm saying in my context, if you put your hand up in worship, you'd probably have like a sarcastic remark or something like that made to you, right? And that kind of that was in just the vast majority of churches that I kind of grew up in, and that had an effect in that, I did not see those types of outward manifestations, if you will, of emotion to be valid. I saw them as attention seeking. I saw them as emotionalism and just being charismatic. And I didn't have a place in my mind for that to be actually real, or that to be actually something that could be legitimate and could be done in a way that wasn't intention seeking. It was a way that, that the joy that individual was feeling was being shown, right? I didn't really have a context for that. So now, now that I'm in the particular Baptist realm and I'm honestly surrounded by a lot of that, that the liberty of conscience is something that is a great comfort to me as a particular Baptist. I do feel freedom to express my emotions in that way. I don't do it all the time. And when I do, I'm usually the only one doing it, but that's okay. But for me, it's real. It's not attention seeking. It's not charismatic because I'm not charismatic. And I'm not doing it to try to conjure up some sort of feeling in worship. It's a response. It's a response to what I am singing or what the preacher is preaching. And it's a way that like I think is a good and biblical way to show those things, as long as, you're not doing it in trying to bring attention to yourself or, curate some sort of emotional experience. Like that's not what it's for. So yeah, if I'm very much enjoying the music and hearing my people sing and dwelling on the truth that we are singing, like, I'll raise the forbidden hand every once in a while. It's been known to happen, right? But I do find myself largely in the circles that I run and surrounded by folks where that's seen as foreign, right? And I don't think it has to be. I don't think it has to be. If that's not, and I'm not saying like if you're not again, like, let's be balanced. If you're not raising your hand, then you're dead inside. Like, no, absolutely not. That's not at all what we're saying. But I think we have people who are afraid to, because of the stigma that's there.
Yeah.
We are so scared of showing emotion because we don't want to be associated with the charismatics, or, well, that's what the charismatics do in their churches, and we don't want to do that. So we don't do it. And we're often very cold. And I think there can be something in the middle, Jack. I think we can find some balance where, you know what? You can get excited when you're hearing good preaching. You can give some amens. As a preacher, and I'm not speaking for every pastor, obviously, but as a preacher, I appreciate those. If I'm preaching to a dead silent room, like, I don't know if what I'm saying is connecting. I mean, obviously I trust the Spirit to do that work, of course. I'm not saying that I don't, but hearing some amens is encouraging. You can encourage your pastor to do that, and that's okay. Obviously we shouldn't be preaching for the amens. That's not why you preach, but don't let that stop you from encouraging the person that's preaching. Or don't let, fear of wanting to be seen a certain way stop you from expressing your gratitude for the gospel in a certain way, right? And I don't know. There might be some folks listening to this thinking that's just kind of charismatic swill, but I think we can find something in the middle, because the gospel's good, and we should be excited. We should be joyful, and it should be something that we find hope in. I don't know. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think our church is unique in that I would say the bulk of the congregation, and even just how we preach too, is pretty much like Reformed Baptist light.
Sure.
And so I would say like half of the not even half, maybe a quarter of the congregation is okay raising hands and stuff like that. And I'm not necessarily, and I think there isn't a culture of, trying people, making fun of people and stuff like that. Even we've done it to where when we go to the benediction, like, we have our hands open to receive the benediction.
Sure.
So there's ways in which just simple things, or even when a person who's on stage who may be leaving our congregation to go somewhere else during like a season of time, maybe it's like like when we pray, like we extend a hand in prayer, something like that. Maybe it's like just doing smaller things in which you either are showing, receiving, or doing something in that, pending it doesn't, violate your conscience or something like along those
Sure.
lines. So
Yeah,
there's
absolutely.
there's just stuff like that I think is important, and ways in which we can start to move into that direction where you're cultivating a culture in your church where it's not suspect to raise a hand during worship or anything like that. So
Yeah.
I think it depends too on how your pastors worship too,
Sure.
because when I
Congregations
look
learn a lot from
over-
their pastors.
yeah. So when I look over at my pastors and I see them worshiping with maybe like a hand up at times or something along those lines, that shows a way in which is like, oh, okay, it's fine to do that.
Sure.
I just think that a lot of people, if their pastors aren't doing it, they have a perceived notion that it's not okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, there's
or at least.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, like, at least, if you're a pastor and like, you're just like, I just don't worship like that. That's not how showing joy, like, that's not how I show the joy that I have. That's totally fine.
Yeah.
But realize that your congregation does learn from you. Right. And don't be legalistic or in the ways that, you do preach, or the ways that you do encourage joy to be seen, because I think a lot of pastors can fall in the trap of, well, because I don't do that, I think it's dumb. And we don't want to be like that on things that are matters of conscience, right? So maybe that's not your background. Maybe you did grow up super, charismatic, and you're like, dude, I don't want to do that anymore. It reminds me of bad things, dude. I totally get that. And maybe it's good for the congregation to know that about you. I think there could be a lot of things, but I interrupted you. Please finish your thought.
No, I was just saying, yeah, you can learn a lot from your pastors and how they might perceive. You might have perceptions or assumptions about how to worship and what's okay to worship or not okay. But if you see your pastors doing something during worship in song, maybe, or throughout the service, the Lord's Day service, maybe it gives you just a little credence to be like, oh, maybe I should ask a question about that, or
Sure. Yeah.
talk to him about, hey, how are we perceived in doing this during worship? I mean, it's not like you're waving a flag or anything like that.
Right. Yeah. No, exactly.
Crazy stuff.
We're still worshiping orderly. Oh, right. This is an orderly fashion, and we are observing the regulative principle. Like we're checking all the boxes. But I think there are some particular Baptists that they'll see somebody raise a hand and they'll be like, that's not orderly. That's against the order. Like, how dare we? It's like, no, worship the Lord in silence and with a contrite face. And that's the best way to worship. And it's just, our joy should be seen on our face. The older that I'm getting and the longer I'm in ministry, the more I'm convinced of that. I think we got to get rid of our RBF, man. We really do. Like, it's easy to make the excuse, like, well, I'm Reformed Baptist, like I always look grumpy. It's like, yeah, no, I get it. Some people just are, some people just have that, but we should be aware of it. That's something I've been convicted of recently. Like, part of that is I think as pastors we do need to not only be approachable, but to be seen as approachable, and I think we have a higher standard to fall under and to be aware of. Now, obviously, I think this applies to all Christians, but your sheep should be able to see you as gentle, and I think that we need to be very careful with how we go about interacting with our flock and other people, because like, I know I can look grumpy sometimes. And I've been convicted of that. It's, no, like I should be happy. Again, it doesn't have to be fake, but I want my congregation to see that the joy that I have in my heart, the joy that I preach about, they believe it because they see it and they hear it. Right. And it's hard to do that when someone's talking about the joy that we have of our salvation and they look like they want to absolutely tear someone's throat out, which is something that us PBs can struggle with, man. We really can. We're very particular, and it's especially in our facial structures. So, Jack, my friend, there's probably a lot more we could talk about on that, but we don't want to suck the joy out of the room and go longer than we should. So why don't you get us out of here, and we will go talk to our patrons.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, if you appreciate Josh and I just trying to change up the dynamic in the way in which particular Baptists are perceived, if you appreciate how we are trying to make the local church central to the believer's life, and you want to join in on our conversations about various different topics, and you want to engage us, you can do that through the sociables, if you will. It's not the metaverse anymore. It's just Meta, Facebook, the Facebook, if you will. The Instagram goes well with chocolate, marshmallow, maybe sprinkle a little heresy on top of it for the Instagrams, or the sociable formerly known as Twitter, X, if you will. You can find us on those sociables at the tag @ReformatoryPod. You can send us, direct message us, send us a question, comment, concern, episode idea, anything that you're kind of looking for more clarity on. You can do that through our sociable sites. And Josh, you can tell the lovely people how they might support us further in our endeavors here.
All right, listen up, all you grumpy Baptists. We've got multiple ways. You can head on over to YouTube, watch those Instagrams. They're a lot more fun to watch than listen to. So if you head on over to YouTube, you can watch this episode as well as listen to it. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the little bell for notifications, as the kids say. We'd appreciate that. If this episode brought you joy, if this podcast brings you joy, well, let's see that joy first in your face, but then also in your pointer finger, because you can like this podcast and rate this podcast on Apple and Spotify, and we would greatly appreciate that you do so, because it helps get the podcast out to more people, and then more people can experience the joy of being told that we need to be joyful, because that's how it works, right? Last but not least, we do have a Patreon, and if you like this podcast so much and you're like, I want more of these guys are awesome, well, you're probably not saying that, but if it's something close to that and you would like some bonus content, you can head on over to Patreon, and for $5 a month, that's all it is, $5 a month, you too can become a Patreon supporter. And if you choose to do so, our pledge to you is that your name shall be hallowed.
Hallowed, sir.
Hallowed through the halls of the podcast. That is our pledge to you. We thank you all for listening, and we will catch you on the next step of the Reformatory.